Rise of the Ronin confounds me. On one hand, it's an action game with combat that's a cut above most of its peers, an interesting historical fiction world and characters, entertaining co-op, and plenty of neat little flourishes that make traveling through its map, completing missions a lot of fun. On the other hand, it's heavily weighed down by the forces of the all-game bloat, the stereotypical Ubisoft map with tons of icons to clear, an outrageous amount of loot loaded with meaningless incremental stat upgrades, and the overwhelming feeling that, like a good TV show, it keeps running long past its expiration date. It would have been a lot more fondly remembered if there was a lot less of it. What's up, chocolatiers? Welcome back to the channel. Today, a very special video. I want to cover Rise of the Ronin and how I don't think anybody's correct about this game 100%. Now, what I just read to you was a review from IGN covering Rise of the Ronin. So as many of the negative to mixed reviews coming from gaming outlets. Many of them stated that the game was just bad both graphically and even gameplay-wise, with many comparing it to Ghost of Tsushima because, of course, in the era that we live in, if anything takes place in this time period now, it's going to be compared to Ghost of Tsushima because that's how people are. And we know that people can't even enjoy things anymore without having to compare them to another product. And if said product doesn't live up to snap, well, it's a piece of crap. Now, I'm definitely in the minority, and I don't mean this on the game, but video games in general. Because every showcase I see and every announcement that happens, I end up making a list. And just like Santa Claus, I checked that thing twice. Basically what I'm saying is that I made up my mind I was going to get this game, so reviews were never going to stop me. I even got it on release date like most games I end up getting because I want to support the developers and I usually want to play them on day one. Forget waiting for a sale 3-4 months later. I want to play it now. Just like when I was a little child back then in the day. And I want to play games now. Right now. Now, even though I got this game on release day, I was actually unable to play it on release day. And I actually didn't start playing it until about 2 weeks ago. Because a little game that I like to call Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was out at the time. And I didn't get a chance to play it till about March. And I just beat it about a month ago now. Review coming soon, by the way. It's going to be a big one. But alas, I've also picked up on a problem I have. Or should I say, a problem that the internet has in general. Because that's the curse of having fun and enjoying life itself. I know, right? Being happy. Sore subject. I see. But this is why I never hated games like Forspoken. Because even though I sat there and I thought to myself, yeah, story's kind of trash, animation's a little goofy, I still loved the gameplay. And that's exactly what you want to play a video game for, is it not? The gameplay. That's why games like Last of Us Part 2 I never understood. Now that game to me is a 10 out of 10 in my book, so I already probably got some clicks off. I understand that. But I never understood why a story choice could make this game that's amazing go from a 10 out of 10 to a 0 out of 10. If you don't like the story, fine, but graphics alone, at least bump it up a couple points, 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10. I just don't understand how you can give something a 0 out of 10 unless everything's not on point. And in the case of Last of Us Part 2, great graphics, even if you don't like the gameplay and story, great graphics, okay? And that's the message that I want to spread on the channel as a whole. That video games need to be loved. Yeah, sure, there's some duds out there, but there's also some amazing experiences that you're missing out on just because mom and pop at the drugstore told you, hey, we're not selling the cocaine here. I mean, fuck, it's not good, is what I meant to say. Even the worst games out there have still fun elements that can be found. You just gotta look for them. Or, play them, okay? Instead of listening to everybody else. That's what happened to Alone in the Dark. Go check out that review on the channel. And with that, let's get into the game. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Rise of the Ronin review. Rise of the Ronin is set in Yokohama, Edo, and Kyoto. In the mid-19th century, during Bakumatsu, the final years of the Edo period. The game depicts the lead up to the Boshin War between the Tokugawa shogunate and the various anti-shogunate factions is pleased with the Western influence after the forced reopening of Japan following the Sakoku period. I'm probably butchering all this, but you're still here. The story follows the Blade twins, whose genders are selected by the player, and their involvement in the Veiled Edge resistance group after their family was murdered by Onawaban working for the shogunate. Trained by the Veiled Edge's leader, the Bladesmith, the Blade twins begin their mission to overthrow the shogunate. Unfortunately, despite all this hype I've been creating, I actually didn't love the story. I didn't like it. But are you seeing what I'm saying? I didn't like it, but I still love the game. Let me get into it. Many of the side characters were great, and some twists towards the first half are pretty good, but overall the main character is bland and boring, and the plot itself, while having some fun moments, doesn't even come close to some of gaming's greatest stories, and unfortunately let me down. I wrote that line. It let me down. Side missions are weird for me, however. While I didn't love all their stories they offer, just like the main game, I would come to love the exploration aspects of the world. This game was compared to a PS3 game graphics-wise, but I'd say it's more akin to an early PS4 game. For someone who plays a lot of games, I would have cared less, but in this day and age, I can see why that will be a problem for people dropping $70 on the title. And side note right here, $70 games, I know a lot of you are probably sitting there thinking, yes, games are $70, it sucks. I know friends of mine that paid over $100 to play college football 3 days early. They can't wait 3 days. Nope, they can't. $100 on football. I'm actually excited for college football. I don't want to shit on it. I am hyped, okay. But $100, and with games becoming increasingly more expensive, a game that looks like it was, shot out of the anus of a PS4 cannon, early stages PS4, by the way, I can see why a lot of people, after hearing mixed reactions and reviews, are sitting there going, I don't want to pay $70 for that, and that's understandable. Now, back on the story, I want to get into what you do and some choices that you make. So, I want to add that we get choices that do influence the plot, which I tend to like. You hate a faction? Well, a good chance is coming that you will get to choose a side leading to some different rewards and different story outcomes. Gameplay-wise, the Blade twins get a hook, glider, and many different weapon types like pistols, long guns, katanas, and pretty much other stuff. This one complaint I actually heard was that many of the weapons felt kind of the same. But this is where I can see the correct comparison to Ghost of Tsushima, because during combat, you can actually change weapon styles. That's correct. Change weapon styles. So that's why it doesn't feel the same. So let's say you have a spear. You can swap different weapon types depending on who you're fighting against. Say you're fighting against somebody with a katana and you have another katana. You might want to swap to a weapon style that's more fluid, where you swing like this instead of having your sword up like this. And it's really awesome. The best way I can describe this game is an action role-playing game that tries to mix the Dark Souls-esque bosses and level design. Instead of bonfires, it's little burners. Instead of hard bosses, they're moderate on depending on the difficulty that you want to play on. This is the reason why I love this game, because of the gameplay. Understand me, of the gameplay. It's like people in the old arcade days playing, Pac-Man or something, going, oh, I wonder what the story is. They don't care. Gameplay is king. The parry and overall combat system reminded me of my days playing Sekiro, or Sekiro. I'll never know how to pronounce that. I hear different people say different things. Getting a perfect parry and causing the enemy's stagger meter to drop and getting that final blow is so satisfying, man. It really is. It's like busting a fresh one, Anyways, I think it's funny because while playing this game, I kept getting engrossed in the combat, and that kept leading me to realizing something. See, we don't actually hate a lot of games. Look at Days Gone, for example. Guys, look at that. Due to poor reviews, Sony chose not to pursue a sequel despite the sales. And looking at the modern audience, if you give a game or even a movie a 7 or a 7.5, people are crazy. they immediately think the game's bad. Now, I want to go back to the IGN review because they gave the game a 7, with the subheader saying, good. People see this, including myself, and we think it's bad. We think that people are crapping on it. Meanwhile, even with complaints, they still think the game is good for what it is. And with that, I have this to say in my final thoughts. I think Rise of the Ronin is a must-play for action fans. Despite its lackluster RPG elements and story, there's something very special here. A world with enjoyable elements and a game with great gameplay that evolves as you progress. Yes, are there some things hindering it, like maybe the graphics? For example, me, I didn't like the story. But there are story elements that I did like. And for me, I think that it's definitely worth your time. And if you don't feel like dropping $70, buy it when it's on sale. Because I think this is a really good game that's getting overlooked because of better games. Just because it's not Ghost of Tsushima doesn't mean it's not Rise of the Ronin. And with that, hope you guys like and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. I plan on having the Final Fantasy Rebirth review drop pretty soon. So if you like this review and you want to stick around for this big black man sitting on his couch talking about video games, please like and subscribe for more. And with that, I'll catch you guys on the next one.
Good.